Oof. Something really annoying happened to the Mustang, and I'm gonna tell you about it. But first I need some caffeine because I've been around children all day, so all of the energy that was inside of me was sucked out and transferred into them. So what's going on with this very dirty vehicle? Well, you see, I was going to get the Mustang tuned, which I was very excited about. Not any crazy sort of tune, but I recently purchased this which is a SCT BDX. This one in particular is a Bama, I believe it's the Rev X is what this particular one was called. And I got 2 custom tunes written from Bama, and I was going to upload them onto the car. When I was using this, I made sure everything was up to date and everything. I followed all the instructions like I was supposed to, and I went to upload the tune, and it told me that my vehicle is not currently supported. And you know, that's interesting because I happen to know that it for sure is supported. So what was going on? Well, I contacted SCT customer support, as you do when you have a problem with someone's product. I sent them over all the info on the tuner about like all the essentially like software identification for the tuner itself and the VIN for the car and what the essentially like code that it brought up for the car was. I don't know what the exact like word I'm looking for is. You know what, let me just check the email and just make sure I'm saying this correctly. They said the vehicle info that the tuner is showing is a bunch of letters and digits, which is not factory tuning. With that info in there would indicate the vehicle is already tuned. So you would need to remove the tune that is on the vehicle, or if you do not have the tuner that tuned the vehicle, you would need to have the vehicle flashed back to factory via a Ford dealership before you can tune with our device, unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately. This is funny because I started to have this suspicion that this vehicle actually was already tuned. I don't know why I didn't really like think that this was kind of obvious previously, but I started to have this suspicion like shortly before this actually showed up after I bought it, because I was looking up some info about tunes or whatever for the Mustang, and people were talking about like, yeah, I'm gonna get my car tuned just so I can get rid of like the first to fourth skip shift. That's so annoying. And I thought, my car doesn't do that. Is my car already tuned? Well, yeah, apparently it is. And to be honest, that actually makes a lot of sense. Not only does it mean that the previous owner was not a complete moron and did actually tune the car after putting headers on it, which is good, but also it explains, first of all, why the car does pull very hard and definitely, you know, runs like it has more power than stock, and also explains a few issues that I've had with the car that are probably just related to the tune on it not being super duper great and or just not being very well revised, I guess. Because although I wouldn't say this is like a huge issue with the car, one problem that I have had is when driving at low speed, well, essentially right after the car is started, especially when it's cold, it just tends to kind of like bog down at times and like sort of have like a little bit of like hesitation and jerkiness to the throttle. And if you like rev it, nothing crazy when the car's cold, obviously, but just like on the throttle a little bit, blip it up to like 2,000 RPM. A lot of times it kind of like chokes and sort of like just sputters and doesn't want to like actually rev until the car warms up. But once the car is warmed up, and not even by a lot, just warmed up a little bit, it runs way differently and it pulls very hard, like the engine's definitely healthy. And so this was kind of like hard for me to figure out exactly. I bought these spark plugs, which we're gonna put in just a minute. And this is what I'm starting with, but I was also planning on getting some new coil packs, and I was gonna replace the injectors as well, but in the meantime, I'll probably just run like a fuel additive that should hopefully clean the injectors if they're a little dirty. Not that it's like probably gonna, you know, make some sort of miracle happen, but it might help a little bit. Because I thought that might explain why it was running slightly more rough when it's cold. But honestly, after finding out that this car already does have a tune on it, it makes a lot more sense that the tune that's on the car is just probably not particularly good, or just isn't particularly well adapted for like the colder weather or something like that. This car did used to be in the South. I can't remember which states it was in. I want to say it was like Louisiana or Florida or something like that. I could be completely wrong about that, but regardless, this car was mostly a Southern car, except for like the last couple years. But whatever the case, the tune is probably actually the problem that we're running into, and that makes sense. And the reason why it's so annoying is that this can't just overwrite whatever tune is on the car, because as far as this device is concerned, it's not identifying the factory tuning on the car, and so it doesn't think that this is the car that it is. Factory car, I guess. I'm describing this so badly, but hopefully it makes sense. So this just doesn't think that it's the right vehicle. And unfortunately, there's nothing that I really can do about that. I don't have the equipment to flash the car back to stock in any way, shape, or form, and so I don't have a choice other than just to take it to a Ford dealer. And I do have an appointment to take it to a Ford dealer on Saturday morning. So, that's annoying. As a person who tries to always do my own stuff on my own vehicles, I hate that it makes me feel almost defeated that I have to take it to the dealer to have this sorted out. It's just annoying, but oh well, it's not the end of the world. However, this vehicle should be tuned with the Bama 93 race tune on Saturday afternoon, hopefully. So, you should be able to look forward to not the Saturday upload, but the next Wednesday upload, a week from now, having this car being tuned. And before everyone freaks out, Bama tunes, they're garbage, I have a superiority complex. Yeah, I understand why people have said that. I understand there has been issues people have run into here and there, but I think that Bama, and honestly a lot of like off-the-shelf tuning companies, need to be cut a little bit of slack, because people don't always understand how an off-the-shelf tune actually interacts with the way the vehicle's ECU works. Because I've seen arguments against like Cobb off-the-shelf maps and saying like, well, you know, they just designed that for a car, and then how do you know your car, for instance, that could be in different elevation or whatever, it might not be running exactly like that car, and then that tune could actually be really unsafe for your vehicle. In the vast majority of circumstances, an off-the-shelf tune is essentially a baseline for your vehicle's ECU to work with and work around. I think that's the simplest way I can describe it. Your vehicle's ECU automatically adapts when it's stock to changes in environment, whatever they may be, and will adapt things like the amount of fuel that the engine is letting into it, or the amount of timing that it is allowing to happen. Like that would vary a lot with different ranges of like what octane gas you're using. And that is something that these tunes are designed to work with, that in mind, for vehicles that their ECU does that stock. The ECU can still make adjustments to that tune, and essentially if you do have some form of change in environment, whatever it may be, that tune will essentially fine-tune itself into a better spot for your car. In the case of the Bama 93 race tune, you can run it on 91 or 93 or whatever it might be, and the vehicle will detect what fuel it's running and will adjust timing accordingly. So it's not really as cut and dry as people make it. And in the case of this vehicle, I'm going to data log the crap out of it and get as many revisions as I possibly can so that I know that this tune is as, I guess, customized specifically for my vehicle as possible. They already wrote the tune with the mods I have on the vehicle in mind, but sending them back the information that I literally record off of how the vehicle is running and sending it back to them means that they'll be able to adapt it to make it run even better for my specific vehicle. And a lot of off-the-shelf tunes work that way. That's essentially similar to how getting, you know, a professional E-tune or something like that works too. And honestly, these companies like Cobb and Bama have a lot of really intelligent people working at them. It's not fair to just like write off the entire company because one guy is irritated that he put the baseline tune in his car and it has drivability issues at low RPM. Record it, send them back the data log that you got, ask for a revision, tell them the issues you're running into, and these companies will work with you. So that's my spiel on that. Hopefully we will have that soon, and hopefully in not that much longer, we will be able to change out the injectors and the coil packs. Not that the coil packs probably are bad or anything, but coil pack performance does seem to decrease with these engines at slightly higher mileage, which is not that surprising. And people have said they've actually noticed a decent difference in performance, like throttle response and fuel economy, with swapping out coil packs, even at only 25,000, 50,000 miles, something like that. We're at 107,000, so I think it's probably about time that we change that out. Believe it or not, all you have to do is change out the injectors to run E85 on a Gen 1 Coyote. There's not actually anything else that needs to change in the fuel system to accommodate that fuel. The lines and everything in the pump is actually perfectly adequate for essentially like a bolt-on naturally aspirated Gen 1 Coyote. So that's cool. I plan on doing that in the future. I don't think it's gonna make a massive power difference, but you know, another 10 or 15 horsepower or something like that at the wheels is something, and that would be cool. But right now we have this to do. And don't ask me why this is packaged like this. This is official Ford Motor Company packaging right here. Just with all of them just hanging out together as soon as you pull it out of the box. So that's dumb, but we might as well replace the spark plugs. We were going to anyway, and you know, let's just do it now. I've never done spark plugs on this engine. Obviously, I haven't owned this car for very long. This is the only Coyote car that I've ever owned. I think we should pretty much just start with getting the coil covers off of this, but before we do, I would like to say, hopefully you notice a difference in video quality here, which is that I put a lot of better lighting in the garage. There is some different overhead lighting in general, and I plan on putting even more in. The lighting was not bad generally in the garage for like working in here in the first place, but it is much better for video now, as I can prove to you right now. Because this is what videos were looking like not that long ago. And not that this is horrible, this is still a good camera and everything, but I can do this, or this, which is what we were just on. Let the camera adjust a little bit to that. And we also have selectable, essentially like white balance on this light too. And so this makes a huge difference, and I'm super happy about it. Hopefully it's much better for you guys as well. And yeah, let's figure out what we're doing with the Mustang, I guess. Well, I just learned something interesting, which is as we go into less good lighting all of a sudden here, which is that the previous owner of this car apparently did a mod that I already would have done on the car myself as well. I just pulled this, the coil cover off on the passenger side to get a look at this. Obviously, this is an overhead cam engine. The spark plugs are in a super, super easy location. But what you might notice is the SF on the coil packs right there. These are actually MSD Street Fire coil packs, which is the exact coil packs I was going to put in the car anyway. So that's a modification that is actually already done to this vehicle. So that's really cool. That's something I don't have to worry about. So it looks like all we need is, I'm assuming, an 8mm socket. One thing is that all of these coil packs have a zip tie attached to them. So hopefully not all of these tabs are broken on the clips for this, because if that's the case, that's annoying. But these two look fine. I mean, I can zip tie them if I need to, but I would rather not. I definitely don't want to have to do the wiring to replace all of these. I do not like wiring. I will fully admit that. I don't like it. I'm not that great at it. It's time to bust out the ridiculously overpriced snap-on ratchet that I do have to admit I do like quite a bit. Sorry, strut tower brace. Wow, that was such a cakewalk in comparison to the Dakota. And yeah, this probably wasn't actually necessary. That spark plug looks pretty decent. Well, looks like we do have to zip tie them.
A few moments later.
Alright, so we put all the plugs in the car. I stopped in the middle of that just to make sure I was going to be able to do the zip tie thing correctly because about half of them did end up needing zip ties. I'm not sure entirely what the issue is with the clips that are on the connectors for the coil packs, but either way, as long as they're held together tightly, they should be fine. So I have them zip tied on there pretty well. I did end up taking the strut tower brace off just because it made things easier. So let's go ahead and put the strut tower brace back on, and then we'll start it up and make sure it still runs. I don't see why it wouldn't, but hey, you never know. I think we're about ready to start this thing up and make sure everything's still all good. Except for I have to go actually get my keys because apparently I left them inside. Keys have been retrieved. Let's go ahead and start it up and make sure everything's still good. Well, unsurprisingly, it still works. It's a better result than the last project video I did on the Dakota though, so, you know, I guess we can't act like it was totally impossible that wouldn't have worked. Also, just like side note, just replacing like small things that have almost no bearing on anything can make a big difference. Like, in this case, I took off some hose clamps that were kind of too big for the spots that they were for like the crankcase breather tube, and replace them with some smaller, like new hose clamps that look far better. And like that alone, just like, it makes me happier looking into the engine bay. And I love that there's small things you can do like that to your car that can make such a big difference. And I am struggling to close this again, my goodness. Got it eventually. But you also will have noticed that as I just started it there, I did give it a few small revs, nothing over like 2,000 or maybe like 2,200 RPM. And the reason why I did that is so you could hear the little bit of kind of like the stutter that it does. And again, I'm very curious as to if that's down to the tune or whether it might be something else. But again, once it's warmed up, it doesn't do that. And it doesn't have to warm up much. It really just does it like very shortly after startup. I'm curious if even just the stock tune on the car fixes that. If not, then there might be another problem that we need to look at. But in the meantime, it's got the new plugs. I found out that it already had the coil packs I was going to replace anyway. Granted, I don't know how long those have been in there for, but I assume they probably haven't been in there for like more than half the car's mileage at probably maximum. That is a guess, but I would be surprised if it was any different. And in which case, I doubt that they need replaced right now. So yeah, that's good news. So we can go ahead and close the hood on the Mustang. But yeah, I think that basically does it for what we're gonna do to this. Small side note, I just want you guys to know that I'm literally working constantly to try and improve the quality of this channel. For instance, this lighting is a big upgrade in my opinion. I think everything looks way better than it used to. And I mean, that in addition with, I'm looking at getting more equipment for different things in general. For instance, like a good camera setup that I can easily set up with better quality than like my phone in my car for in-car footage and stuff like that. So if you are looking forward to improved content and you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, please consider subscribing to the channel for more car content and for more Mustang content. There's gonna be some cool upgrades to this car coming up shortly, so I hope that you guys are looking forward to that. And with that, I thank you guys once again for watching, and I will see you guys all next time.